Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, 5 Reasons to Earn a Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling at Divine Mercy University. My name is Julie Cipriano. I'm the admissions counselor for the School of Counseling, and I am going to go through this material with you today. Joining us today, we have current counseling student, Kristen Brown. Kristen lives in Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us, Kristen.
Glad to be here.
Would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Um, I am a stay-at-home homeschool mom for the past many, many years. I got I'm a Catholic revert. I've been married for coming up on 26 years. I have 4 children, ages 21 down to 9. Um, I earned my BA in child development from Tufts in 1996, and then a Master's of Divinity from Gordon Conwell in 2005. And then that was all training to be a pastor. I was highly involved in charismatic evangelicalism. And then through a bunch of whirlwind kind of things and theological questioning, I returned to the church. I was raised Catholic, and in my freshman year of college, I had a very radical conversion experience and just followed Jesus. I would say, would never have said that I left the Catholic Church, but that I was just following Jesus where he led me. Um, and then that's what led me to go into ministry. But then it's funny how Gordon Conwell tends to prepare people to return to the church. So you ask a lot of theological questions. And when I took a break I returned in 2009 and then was wrestling with what are all my plans for. I thought I had this whole thing lined up and what to do. Um, and I spent about 14 years wrestling with God about it, going back and forth between was that all a waste, but at the same time homeschooling my kids and loving being with them. And then last year I found out about DMU, and that was the answer to God always saying it's not a waste unless you call it a waste. And so now here I am.
Great. Well, we're glad you're with us. And you started school, did you start last year? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I just started in January.
In January. Okay.
Yep.
So you've done 3 terms so far.
So far,
Yeah.
yes. 3
Great.
full-time terms. So
Great. Okay. Very good. So could you share with me about why you're interested in counseling and how you came to be interested in becoming a mental health professional?
sure. I think that I was always drawn to healing, to helping people heal, and uh, particularly that's what I loved about pastoral ministry is bringing Jesus into the lives of people. But pastoral ministry is definitely a specific calling, um, and it's not for me. um, and then with all of that wrestling and seeing, like, I was very drawn to the child development classes as an undergrad, and loved knowing about what makes people tick, and how we grow, how we develop, and how to help people at different stages of their lives. So uh, it actually wasn't on my radar as I was wrestling with God about what the whole point of those those years of degrees, until well, I mean, it popped in and out of my head that you could do a double major at Gordon Conwell, get your master's of counseling there and your MDiv. And every once in a while it would be like, oh, maybe I could do that. But going back to school was an impossible reality as far as I was concerned, with the 4 kids and homeschooling. But then last year, when I discovered DMU about this time last year, it just clicked. And oh, that's perfect. I love helping people. I'm definitely more one-on-one. Um, and I've always had a way of listening to people, and I'm always told that. So kind of just fell into it. And God said, "Here you go." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's the next step."
Yeah, I hear that a lot. People say to me, "Oh, people tell me I'm a good listener. People are always coming to me to share their stories, whether solicited or not." And that just is a recurring pattern that I see among
Yeah.
people who tend to be a good fit. So, why did you choose CMU?
Uh, well, it was between DMU and Gordon Conwell, which is just kind of right up the street in a way. Uh, but really it was the Catholic model. I love that the faith is infused into everything we're doing. The Catholic meta model of the person, that we're created good and we're fallen and redeemed and we're um, relational and fulfilled in vocation. The whole outlook of it. I started devouring everything online about DMU, and ultimately it was also the online part of it, because now it was all in my control of when I studied, because children's issues and schedules, they take priority. And if a live course is happening at a particular time and it conflicts, then I can't get the degree. But this online option with also that in-person training was just a perfect fit.
Oh, great. I'm glad to hear that. So far, what's been the most enjoyable or rewarding part of, and also the most challenging part of your studies here at DMU?
Um, Boy, I think there's multiple rewarding parts. So I'll start with the challenging ones first. It's still a challenge to make sure I can get all of the work done. And I was in high school a total overachiever. And then in college, after I just had that radical encounter with Jesus, grades didn't matter so much. What I knew, it didn't matter. I just wanted to know Jesus. And then the same with my other masters. I was in ministry at the time. So um, I felt like I was doing both learning at the same time as doing. Took 7.5 years to earn that degree. But here, I want to know and read everything and really understand and get that A. When we get the rubrics of this is how you get mastery in something, I want to know it, because I hear a lot about imposter syndrome, and I feel like if my professors have said, yeah, you know this, you own this, then I'm hoping to minimize that when I graduate. But that's hard to do. And it's required a lot of sacrifice of my family and reworking just how we're going to navigate it. Um, so that requires teamwork, and it requires realistic expectations. So I'm probably going to have to relinquish that. I must have a 4.0. So far, so good, but I'm probably going to have to relinquish that vision. So that's the hardest part, is navigating with the family and keeping first things first. But what I love, all the relationships in all of my time in school, and granted, it's different places I was at in life. Um, but the cohort I'm in, having had the residency and seeing people live, and the interactions we have with each other, both with all of our assignments and then with our professors, I've never experienced such an interactive educational um, time. So that, like, with all of our discussion posts, I'm sure there are people who are just like rattling them off, but for me, I'm reading what everybody's writing, and I'm engaging, and there's so many people are. I actually shouldn't say I'm sure, because it feels like everybody's really taking it seriously and engaging with each other. And when we have our answers, you're doing personal responses as well. How are these things affecting you cognitively, effectively, physically, and spiritually? So you really get to know each other. Um, and I'm texting people on the side. There's people of all different ages, so I'm resonating more with the older moms, and also though with the younger people. It doesn't even feel like there's an age difference in so many ways, uh, and I can't get over that part of it. I feel like I'm really learning in community and how accessible both the people my cohort is and the professors are amazing.
Thanks. That's great. I hear a lot of people, not a lot, but pretty regularly, I do hear people say they're afraid to choose an online school because they don't want to lose that sense of community.
Yeah.
So you'd say that you have not sacrificed that one bit, huh?
No, in fact, I feel like it's stronger. I mean, I lived on campus both times, both at Tufts and at Gordon Conwell. But again, partially life circumstances and where I was out and about a lot doing my own other things. But the community of fellow students is just mind blowing to me. I've never had it.
Great.
So,
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. All right, so let's get going with our slides. For you who are on the webinar, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. We are going to give you a lot of information rather quickly. You're bound to have questions. As you do, please feel free to pop them into the chat or into Q&A on your Zoom toolbar. And if Kristen can't answer them as we go along, then I'll tackle them at the end of the webinar. All right, so here we go. 5 reasons to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling at Divine Mercy University. So we are DMU. We are a Catholic institution. We were founded in the late 90s under the name Institute for the Psychological Sciences. That college still exists. If you've poked around our website at all, you've probably seen that name. That houses our psychology side. So we do have another online master's in general psychology. We also have a doctorate in clinical psychology, or PsyD. So what they found through offering those programs was that there was such a need for counselors, and particularly for counselors of faith. So they decided to go ahead and add the second college that we're discussing, the School of Counseling, and the Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So when a school has more than one college, that's the point at which they take a university name. So that's how we went from being plain old IPS to Divine Mercy University. We seek to provide our students an effective academic and educational environment to support the integration of the human sciences and a Catholic Christian understanding of the person. We are accredited. We are institutionally accredited by SACS, or the Southern Association is what that acronym stands for. Institutional accreditation is the baseline you should look for in any U.S. school you attend. If you don't have, if you're looking at other schools and they can't give you a simple yes to that institutional accreditation question, that's a sign to go very quickly in the opposite direction. The way accreditation works in the U.S., each area of the country has its own accrediting agency. Each one has a different name. Ours happens to be called the Southern Association, and that one goes from where we are in Virginia all the way down around to Texas. So UT, Auburn, UVA, all those schools are accredited by SACS, just like we are. Now, when you start talking about psychology and counseling, there are a couple of extra accreditations that can be earned. APA is kind of the big dog of all of those. You see that logo in the middle down here. Most people have heard of APA, or American Psychological Association. DMU is an APA accredited school. In fact, we became only the second school in the whole history of the APA to receive the full 7-year accreditation grant on the first try, and they've just given us an extension to 10 years. So we'll keep going with that for a few years to come here. When you're talking about counseling, the extra accreditation for that type of program is known by the acronym CACREP, C-A-C-R-E-P. It stands for Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs, CACREP. So if you haven't heard of CACREP, just tell a person or two that you're interested in becoming a counselor, and you're bound to hear about it pretty quickly. CACREP is a great thing to have. We have earned this accreditation. We are waiting for the big official announcement. Last I heard, it's coming on August 22nd. So about 3 weeks from now, we should be all CACREP official and ready to change our website and update everything. Our plan is to begin admitting students from, there are 10 or so states that require CACREP for licensing. So we plan to begin admitting those students in January of 24. All right, so any questions about accreditation, please feel free to pop your question into the chat or into the Q&A, and one of us will tackle the question here sooner or later. All right, so what makes this different? So Kristen mentioned our Catholic Christian meta model of the person. This model is unique to our university. It was developed by our faculty, and it's the reason that most people choose our school. Through this model, they'll teach you to frame a treatment plan based on the Catholic understanding of the person, that we are integrated beings, body, mind, and soul. And so when you inevitably encounter somebody as a clinician who doesn't believe in God, who doesn't want to talk about God, that's okay. We understand that the objective truth of who we are and how we were created does not hinge on someone's belief or unbelief. So you can help someone reach flourishing even if they never want to talk about God. The other thing the model does is it teaches such a nuanced understanding of the person that it would take a non-DMU trained therapist really a lifetime of trial and error to kind of figure out on their own if they ever fully do. So you will graduate with a leg up even on seasoned counselors. That's not just me talking. In my travels through the university, I have encountered internship site directors who tell us that our students are far better prepared than their peers who are supposedly at the same place in their education. A lot of that has to do with this training in the meta model. We also offer some training on assessments that most other counseling students don't receive. So Kristen, here's a question for you. We really highlighted DMU the importance of the meta model. And could you give us some examples of how this model is used in class? And what difference do you think that it has made within the context of psychology and psychotherapy altogether?
That's a great question. So pretty much right away, um, I'm not sure we used it not much in the ethics, but definitely the next class, 520. What I appreciated was we are getting a great breadth of all of the development of psychoanalysis with Freud all the way through the modern um, people of putting forth their theories, and we engage each of those different theories, Jung and Freud and Carl Rogers, and but then we address where are their strengths and where are their shortcomings within the Catholic meta model, so that we can really formulate how do I take the best of each of what these different theories has to offer, and see it in light, see the whole person in light of God's creation of that person. And like you said, we don't have to be explicitly Catholic about it. That's one of the things I loved about learning about the ethics class, is how am I it helps you wrestle with how do I retain my faith and not seem to be backpedaling on it or denying it in any way, but at the same time engaging people where they're at. So the meta model helps to affirm, it actually has been helping me to affirm who I am and what I believe, and to be able to engage other people where they're at, not only my future clients, but also the different methods of helping future clients. I can see their strengths and the weaknesses of those models and apply appropriately. I love how deep it gets us to think about these really important topics.
Great, thank you. All right, any questions about the meta model? Then again, please feel free to pop them into the chat or the Q&A and we'll tackle them here shortly. Okay, so here we go. First reason to earn a master's in counseling at Divine Mercy University. Well,
You want
sorry?
Missy?
Oh, I
Sorry.
thought you were talking to me, sorry.
No, my daughter.
Okay, well, the first reason is licensing. People earn this degree because they want to become licensed as a mental health professional. This degree meets all requirements for licensing right now in, I think, 39 states. Once we wrap up the CACREP at the end of this month, that number will jump to 48 states. The two holdouts are going to be Illinois and Rhode Island, and that's because in Illinois, you have to go to school in-state to be licensed right now. And so until they change that rule, then we can't really help anyone in Illinois. And then Rhode Island is special. Rhode Island has such convoluted and difficult requirements for licensing that although our degree does meet the requirements technically, the faculty had to work so hard to help our one Rhode Island student become licensed that they feel that A, they just got lucky, and B, it's for the few students we get from there, not worth the effort. So we don't plan to admit students from Rhode Island, and we can't admit students from Illinois because we can't license students in that state. So to be licensed, once you graduate, you have to sit for an exam, sometimes two, it varies by state. As you move through your studies, your professors will give you assignments that relate to licensure just to make sure that you're headed in the right direction and that you understand the process. So once you have taken your exam or two, once you pass, you're then provisionally licensed. And just like a doctor does a residency after medical school, it's similar for counselors in that although you'll be working and being paid as a therapist, you will have that safety net of a supervisor who can oversee your cases, go through your notes with you, discuss challenging clients, and just help you, as you're a new counselor to gain experience and give you the insight that you'll need as a new counselor. Usually it takes about 2 years to wrap up that supervised period. Yeah, so have you heard anything about licensing yet, Kristen? Are they talking about it already?
Uh, they are. So licensing in Massachusetts is every 2 years. It's always on an odd year. I was answering a question, so I didn't quite hear what you said, but I
Oh,
do know like
sorry.
this year is every every 2 years, so it's an odd year. So this year people are re-upping. You need 30
Mhm.
credits. That's another great thing about the first course we take, where you learn about your own state and what its
Mhm.
requirements are. There's also going to be counseling compact, and more states are signing on to that. So there's going to be reciprocity between the states
Yeah.
for who's accepting whose licenses. So Massachusetts hasn't done that yet, but I joined the Massachusetts Counseling Association, and I know that they're pushing for that, and that's in the works. Another awesome thing about the way the courses work here, they encourage you to behave like a professional right away, and you join either the APA or the ACA, and it's fantastic. So licensure is
Yeah.
coming up.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, they begin preparing you for it very early. Fun fact: 100% of our graduates who have set for the licensing exam have passed it. So the professors are very much invested in our students and in making sure that they're well prepared for that exam and that they pass. Um, if you want to see what your state's requirement is for licensing, whether it's an exam or two, and how long the supervised period is, you can check out our website. But you don't have to take our word for it. You can go to counseling.org. They have a nice list of states. You just click on your state. It'll tell you which exams you have to take, how long you have to work under supervision. There's also contact information for your state licensing board. So counseling.org, it's a great resource if you haven't found it yet. All right. So second reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Well, this program is an online hybrid, and each student gains practical experience through our in-person residency, practicum, and internship. So as you move through your online studies, you'll come to campus 3 times for what we call residency. And they use that time together here on campus to teach the counseling skills that don't lend themselves to online learning. So things like nonverbal communication, situational ethics, there are always a ton of presentations going on by faculty, students, and student groups. It's also a big gateway weekend. So all the professors are there with you, and they're looking to make sure that each student has gained the skills needed to be ready to move on to the next section. So right now, we just finished enrollment for August, and now we're enrolling for the January cohort. Students who start school in January will come to campus for the first time early in March. So no matter when you start, the first residency is always 8 weeks after you begin. Second one's a year later. So if you came for your first one in March, you come back again in the following March. And then the third one is 6 months to a year after the second one, depending on if you're full-time or part-time. While you're here, they'll expect you to be on site and attend the whole program. There is a fee for that training that's built into your tuition. The breakdown is $16.50 per residency. That fee covers your training, obviously, but also your hotel and most of your meals while you're here. Once you finish the bulk of your online classes and your third residency, you'll then step into practicum and internships. And these are done in your own area based on the kind of counseling you'd like to do. So whether it's addiction, trauma, marriage and family, whatever it is you want to focus on, you can choose your internship accordingly, and you can specialize in that way. So of the two, practicum comes first. Practicum is 100 hours of on-the-job training. So that's what gets you ready for the real hands-on counseling work of your internship. At least 40 of those 100 hours will be direct service with actual counseling clients. Once you finish that on-the-job training, you'll then step into your 2 internships. Each one is 300 hours and spans 16 weeks. We do have a director of internships who will work with you to help you identify, 2 or 3 places in your area that you'd like to work, based on your interest. Our internship placement is 100%. We really like that 100% number here at DMU. You'll hear it a lot. So our internship placement, again, is 100%. You will get one, and we will help you with it. Okay, so Kristen, you want to talk about residency a little bit? You've been to your first one. I think your second one's coming up next March, so it's getting close. You're about halfway there.
It is. The residency was amazing. I was asking around for different people because I'd been taking some of the trauma classes that are offered. So there were some people who had already been like, what do I do? it was scary. I didn't know anybody. Somebody said, "Hey, do you want anybody want to carpool?" And she was in Connecticut, and I said, "Sure, I'll carpool," which was created a whole new relationship that I loved. And then while we were there it was so intense. It was all this learning, but it was so personal. We got to practice our skills and hear from both the professors and each other what we could improve on, what we didn't do so well, what we did great. And even practicing that, I'm not very good at telling people like you could work on this, you could fix this. And it was empowering in that way too. It really solidified the bonds so that the next two and following courses, like I said, when we do our assignments, now these people have more of a personality behind them. I can picture them and the conversations we had over dinner, or the work that we did together on the residency impacted it. So it was so empowering. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I just can't wait to see everybody again, actually.
Great, good, thank you. Yeah, residency is very popular. I really enjoy seeing everyone in person that I've only worked with online.
Yeah, and this is
To
to
that
see
point.
the professors in person.
Yeah.
They're all
Mm-hmm.
so real. They're all
Yeah.
so accessible and wonderful, and just very present. I can't get over how wonderful the faculty is. Like just very present and
Yeah.
engaged and wanting to make sure we succeed. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very true. Well, good segue to our next slide. Third reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling is our terrific faculty. So this is maybe 20% of the faculty we have. Dr. Vavlechka here on the left, or Dr. V as the students call her. She's our program director for the School of Counseling. So she handles decisions like waivers and transfer credits and all that kind of administrative type stuff to, assist the dean with that. And then beside her, we have Dr. Keys and Sharp. They are our internship site directors for the School of Counseling. So Dr. Keys helps everyone east of the Mississippi, and Dr. Sharp helps everyone west of the Mississippi. So you'll definitely encounter them as professors, but also when it comes time for your internship, one or the other will be helping you to secure that. And then beside them, we have Dr. DiLiaco and Dr. Humes. Dr. DiLiaco is one of our international professors, so he resides and works in Philippines. And then Dr. Humes is, I think, up north somewhere cold, like Michigan or Missouri or something like that. Anyway, all of our core faculty are practicing and experienced clinicians, so they do understand what you need to learn to live out your vocation as counselor. If you go to the counseling pages of our website, you'll see the faculty tab. The bios of each and every one of our professors is there, along with contact information. Click through and see, and feel free to reach out to any of them whose career is of interest to you. They're always happy to hear from prospective students. They'll probably send you back to me ultimately, but they're always happy to hear from you and answer questions. All right. So fourth reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling, well, JOB. Most people do this because they want a job, and they want a job as a mental health professional. So we've had a few alumni participate in this webinar, and they tell us that most of these things they do in their everyday practice as counselors. So you will be a well-trained, well-rounded counselor who's able to handle anything that comes your way. As for work and how much you're going to earn, I can safely tell you, I don't know. It really depends on where you are and what you do. You can use your favorite search engine to kind of gain an idea of the median salary. Obviously, if you work in a homeless shelter, you're going to earn a homeless shelter salary. If you're in a reasonably metropolitan area, hang out your shingle and go into private practice, you're going to jump up to 6 figures pretty quickly. All right, so fifth reason to earn a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Well, this program is an online hybrid, as I already mentioned. It's very flexible. You can learn anywhere, anytime. The classes are asynchronous, so they're pre-recorded lectures. They're available 24/7 whenever it suits you to access the material. So as long as you have your computer and the internet, you can be anywhere in the world you want to be and still get your schoolwork done. As you move through your studies, your professors will arrange for real-time meetings to do things like discussion group, question and answer, review, all that good stuff. So You will be working very closely with your professors. Also, you'll work very closely with the other students in your cohort, as Kristen mentioned, to build the professional friendships and relationships that you'll need once you become a mental health professional and even before. So, Kristen, it seems like a good time to ask you about, being married and having a family as a student. Um, can you talk with your experience about, juggling family life and the needs of your kids while in school? And have you found it to be manageable?
Um, it was a shell shock to the system. Really glad that we had the I like the layout of the courses so that the semester is divided into 2 terms. And that first term with just one course to like really get like, oh my goodness, I'm back in school. This is hard. And then the material, instead of focusing on all three classes starting in January and going through the semester, to be able to break that up. So I'm really honing in. That was very helpful for me, to just these classes for 8 intense weeks. Um, and managing it with the family, we did take the whole first semester to figure out. I was working too. My girls, I homeschool my younger two, but we use a program that I bring the girls to on Mondays and Thursdays. But I was teaching there too, so it was hard. I'm not working next semester. I stopped. But the asynchronous part of it was fantastic because I could play the videos in my car as I was driving to and from other things for the kids. Then I could listen to those, or if I was going to different appointments. And so I could re-listen to the material and really think it through. That was great. Working out the time to get things done. There's a beautiful rhythm that happens, so that my whole life is now scheduled around Wednesday beginning of the week. So you always have things due on Saturday afternoon, and you always have replies to that's your discussion posts, and you reply to your colleagues who their posts by Monday, and then your main work of the week is due by Tuesday night, and then ta-da, Wednesday starts your next week. And it's a really comfortable rhythm once your family gets used to that, and it's across the board for their whole degree. So that is so helpful to then have the family know, okay, mom is like out of commission on Saturday mornings now. Which and for a while, obviously there's things you can't just say, well, I'm sorry that you're bleeding, I am in class time now. Like, obviously there's like, the first test was, we had an open book untimed test, and that's where I learned uh, I could walk away and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So their life is real, but so much about it was easier. This past summer semester, um, we all agreed was the hardest for those of us who are full time. The workload got pretty intense. And I was glad that school was over for the kids. And what that did was inform how I'm going to prepare uh, for this fall semester. So I'm already setting in, uh, here's here are the block of times that we all make sure we're committing to each other. So it requires discipline, which I'm horrible at on my own. But now that I have deadlines, um, this is definitely works well with my personality. So you need to think about what works well with how you're created, how you learn, how what you need for deadlines. So I learn better under pressure. I get more done when I have just the right amount of pressure with flexibility, which is what the online does. I have all this flexibility. If you can't make your synchronous classes, they're recorded so you can view them later. But I highly recommend trying your best to do them, because uh, the professors, again, are so engaging. So if you've done your reading ahead of time and you have questions, or even if you haven't and you have questions, you're like right there in the moment. I don't get this, or what about that? And they answer your questions, and they're also very attentive after the fact too. So if you email them on the side, it's not that you can only get them in the class time, but there's something about interacting with your peers, sparking each other's ideas, and going after more. So scheduling wise, I think you have to have the discipline. You have to know how to study well, what to really focus on, and what to let go by the wayside. If you can't get to it, it's okay. And you'll figure that out with each professor and with each course. is the modules are laid out really well. But it's it's doable, but it just requires that you have to have a hunger for it. And you have to have a team. If you're as busy as I am, my husband is exceedingly supportive. So we had a lot of takeout for a couple of weeks while I was adjusting. Dinner was not getting cooked and laundry was still in the baskets. If you want your underwear, it's over there somewhere. Just go find it. So, so if you have the support system around you and you have the drive, you can do it. So.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think I might have neglected to mention that the classes are pre-recorded, but no, sorry, the real-time meetings will happen weekly. If you can't make it, they do record it. They put it online for you to watch as you can, but of course, it's always better if you can be there in person. All right. So our acceptance requirements are pretty straightforward. We do require a bachelor's degree with a GPA of 3.0 overall, or in your major, or in your last 60 credits. If you think your GPA might not be quite up to this mark, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Just I'll share my contact information at the end. You can email or text me about it, and we'll discuss how to go about just getting a waiver from Dr. V. We also require the GRE. It can be waived if you have a master's degree or higher. Everyone else has to take it. The good news is, though, that we don't use the GRE to make admissions decisions. In fact, you can apply and be fully admitted before we ever see your GRE score. So if it's a Band-Aid you have to rip off, don't let it get you down. And I'd be happy to send you more information about that as well. We will require official transcripts for each degree conferred. Don't feel like you have to send me your million billion transfer credit transcripts. I don't need to see those. I just need degrees conferred. If you're an international student, I will need an official transcript. Also, if your degree is, or your transcript is not in English, or if it's graded on a scale other than 4.0 like we use in the US, then it would need to be translated and or evaluated for US equivalency. If your language is something other than English, then we do require the TOEFL, and you see the score requirements there. Okay. So here's where the rubber hits the road. Right now, the cost per credit is $925. It's a 66 credit master's degree. 925 times 66 is 61050. There's a technology fee of $50 per class for a total of $1,100. Lab fees are $375 for your whole time in school, start to finish. And then residency fee that we discussed earlier, $1,650 per residency times 3 for a total of $4,950. This fee covers your training, obviously, but also your hotel and most of your meals while you're here for training. So that gives you a total tuition value for the whole program, start to finish, of $67,475. So that's $67,475. Now, we have a number of ideas for ways to make the degree affordable. We do participate fully with a federal loan program, so if you felt like you wanted or needed a student loan, we can certainly help you with that. If you're working, some employers do provide tuition reimbursement, so it's definitely worth that conversation to kind of find out what support, financial support might be available for you through your employer. We are approved for the VA, the GI Bill. We're also a yellow ribbon school, and we do accept AmeriCorps benefits. So if you have any of those, or if they can be assigned to you, we participate with all of them. We also have a very nice scholarship program available. You can find it on our website pretty easily. Just search scholarships. The scholarships are designed quite well so that everybody qualifies for something. And once you begin your application, our financial aid experts will be in touch to begin talking with you about our scholarships and to kind of help you figure out, you know, which ones you should pursue and what you can reasonably expect from us given your particular situation. We also have a matching scholarship available. So if you can find some nonprofit support from outside the university, whether it's an agency, a religious or fraternal type organization, as long as it's nonprofit, we would match that support up to $2,000. So that's a nice way to double any outside funding you can find. We also have a cash plan we can set up internally that's interest-free. So if you can pay as you go and you feel like you can chip away at it a little bit each month, we can set that up at no charge, no interest. There's also an interesting federal program called National Health Service Corps. This is a tuition forgiveness program, and the way it works is if you're willing to work in an area designated either low income or underserved for 2 years after you graduate, what you would do is search the NHSC interactive map for the jobs available in your area. You can apply for them like you would any other job, negotiate your salary like you would any other job. But because you're working under this partnership with National Health Service Corps, once you've served 3 months of that 2-year period, they'll give you a lump sum of up to $50,000 toward your student loan debt in exchange for that service. This is kind of a no-brainer if you can work it out. It's a great way to go. All right, so at DMU, you can either apply for scholarships or you can take a tuition reduction through one of our many partnership agreements. These are just a few of the entities we partner with. There's a more exhaustive list on our website. Last I checked, that was not complete either. So if you're curious about partnerships or if there's one available for your diocese, your parish, just give me a shout and we'll be happy to work with you on that. So again, our entrance requirements are the bachelor's degree, the GPA 3.0 overall, or in your major, or in your last 60 credits. We require the GRE, although we don't use it to make admissions. And then once all of your application paperwork has been gathered, there are 2 video conferencing interviews to be done. The first one's easy. It's a quick 30 minutes with me. Mostly it's a coaching session to get you ready for the big interview. That one is a 3-hour online group interview with 2 or 3 other applicants to the program and 2 faculty members. So you're probably thinking, great, this all sounds good, but how do I know this is the right field for me? Well, I ask you to consider these 4 questions, think about them carefully and give yourself an honest and direct answer. Do you have the desire to help heal the whole person and to help people flourish? Would you like to have a career which enables you to answer the question, how can I help people? What can you do to make a positive contribution in others' lives? Can you be that instrument of healing? And finally, I ask everyone, because I'm the one who's on the hook to recommend you to the dean, if you were to apply and be admitted, is this something you could commit to completing? Are you someone who finishes what you begin? So after careful consideration of these questions, if you can give yourself an honest and firm yes to each of them, I think that the chances are you'd be a great fit for this program. All right, again, so our applications process is pretty straightforward. The first step is an online demographic form. It takes 20 or 30 minutes. You can do it today if you like. Once we have that, our financial aid experts will be in touch to begin talking with you about tuition, scholarships, which ones you should pursue, and what you can reasonably expect from us given your particular situation. Once we've done all that, we'll work through gathering your required documents. Once we have those, we'll set you up for your interview and hopefully admission. While it is true that classes begin August 23rd of 2023, we're enrolling for the January cohort right now. My apologies for neglecting to have that updated. So classes begin, I believe, January 5th, around there, whatever that Wednesday is, the first Wednesday in January. So we'd love to start the cohort with you. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you, Kristen, for being here with me today. I really appreciate the real perspective of an active student in our program. My contact information is there. You can call or text me at that number. You can email me anytime. And as a thank you for your time this afternoon, we'd like to start you off with a $55 scholarship, an application fee waiver. Just jot down that code for a free application. So let's tackle some questions. If you have to drop off, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you. And if you can stick around for question and answer, great, we'd love to have you. I'm just trying to see which ones Kristen has answered and which ones I have to answer.
Yours there, I left the tuition and the assistant to you.
So tuition is not locked in at a particular rate for enrolled students. There is I've been here for 7 years, and tuition increases about every other year. So there will be a tuition increase as you move through your studies. If you're a part-time student, obviously you're going to have probably a little more of an increase than someone who finishes more quickly at a full-time pace.
The thing I wanted to add about that was if you get the scholarship that is a percentage, then your the funds you get increase because it's a percentage too. So like my fee
Right.
went up, but I got a little bit more help. So
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the scholarships and partnerships are just a flat discount per semester. So that will not change. Is there a graduate assistantship? So if you're local, there are some jobs that can be done on campus with, marketing, or the School of Counseling hires a lot of student assistants from the counseling students. So that's always an opportunity. There may be some for online students. You would have to talk with financial aid about that, but I think most of them are in person here for people who are local to the area, the university. Do I anticipate a substantive tuition increase as a function of the K-CREP accreditation? Well, they increased tuition this year, so I'm hoping that's it for a couple of years. I'm not, unfortunately, a decision maker on that. Someone else handles that. So I don't anticipate a huge jump, but probably in another year or two, there will be a 1 to 3% increase. Is pretty typical. All right, so let's see. Any other questions before we wrap this up here? All right, going once, going twice. Oh, somebody is in Oregon. Yes, Oregon, you can enroll in January thanks to K-CREP. Thanks everyone for your time and your attendance. Thank you, Kristen, for being here with me. It was wonderful talking with you again, and I look forward to hearing from all of you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
thanks.